are live.
It didn't come from me. People heard it. It didn't come from me. It's because it came from this guy.
What's going on, everybody?
We got Karl. This table's starting to move a little bit. It's shaking my water everywhere.
I think James is really active with his hands here.
Yeah, I know. It's like keep going like this every time we talk. Greg's not here.
No,
Greg, where are you?
Vacationing.
Where are you, Greg?
Lucky Greg.
He comes home from the Bahamas today at 7 p.m. I think he said in the evening.
Really?
So he'll be here for next
guy.
week.
He's cool. I like him.
Yeah. I'm trying to rep you out there, Greg. I don't think I'm winning yet though. I got another like 6 months to go.
I bet you Greg's watching right now.
Yeah, and he's still combing. He's got a comb going. Like, yeah,
he's got a bevy in his hand.
Yeah, right.
When I was on vacation, I watched the show. I was in the pool.
Ah, pool show.
I had the phone on, and I was sitting on the side of the pool.
Very nice.
I had a pina colada.
So you've had a vacation. Greg's had a vacation.
You had a vacation, dude.
I need to have a vacation.
Over holidays. I didn't have one over holidays.
Over the holidays, I was with family, sleeping on couches, my back hurt. I want to be in the Bahamas with a coconut that I can drink out of.
Someone
That's
had
a vacation.
to hold the fort down.
That's a vacation. But yeah, no, a couple of things on the show today. We're going to break down parts of the federal budget, actually. And you're like, oh, that's so boring. No, these are tax incentives. You should know about them. Going over what it means to cannabis, too. Some people are really upset in the medical world about the federal budget. And a very interesting, you sent me this, a very interesting article on in the United States that may be pushing through to help fix the issue since the Colwell memo was rescinded, banking for cannabis companies. Prevceutical, we have Stephen Van Deventer coming on, CEO, talking about a few things, including the elephant in the room, which is the Bridgemark scandal. Address that as well. And Chris Arthur is killing it. He's getting damn good at what he does. We're going to go over the 4 top questions from our poll as well.
Well, I got the market movers up here.
Fire them off. What's going on this morning?
Well, it's interesting because I look at the percentage gainers, but we don't really want to talk about the ones that don't have significant volume. So let me just skim down here. See some cannabis companies. Canada House Wellness is up 10, almost 11% on 500,000 volume.
Okay.
Providence Gold, you know how they have those swings, 10%. See,
yeah,
6,500 shares traded.
And it had that much of a swing. Yeah, it happens. It's crazy.
Market caps. They need a market maker in there. 3D Capital. Remember those guys? 3D Capital.
I don't.
Were you around for them?
No.
There was a company called Karl Data Solutions. It had like a lot of hype, all the momentum, people were all over it. I think it's down to like 2 cents right now. And it went up to like 40.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's awful, actually. And just a reminder to everyone, I'll do my best, and so will Karl, to be in FTMIG Live, where we're streaming this, and also Midas Letter on their YouTube as well in the comments. So if you're in there, throw your questions in. We might have answers. We talk to people as we go. Get in there. Mr. Green Thumbs 420 says, "Hey, all just traded CHV."
Oh yeah.
You just mentioned them. Good job.
So they must have been a nice little pattern of a breakout for the traders to jump on it.
Yeah.
Assuming you're a trader.
What else do we have here? I'm going to try to look myself, and then I want to get into a couple of things. Cannabis is finally looking a little bit red. Remember that tweet that we put out, FTM at FTM Invest? Be very mindful that these rips were great. We had some really nice gap ups as well, and that's the time when you start seeing that, you'll have to start asking yourself, do I pull a little off the table? Just a few chips? All my chips? That's up for you to decide, but I think you should take profits as you go, because today would have been, it's kind of showing that if you did yesterday, I think it would have helped you a little bit. But that's the way the market goes up, it goes down. Hopefully, after all, it keeps going like this, and then out of the screen.
What's going on with that company, Will?
I don't know. Will it do something? Will it not? I don't know.
Free Willy.
Free Willy. Love it.
They are sitting at 66 cents. Our community follows them rather closely.
Warren Irwin was in there?
I own this stock, and I keep averaging down myself.
Very nice. Hey, we've got Dan S. Is asking me personally, but both ways. Brandon, what do you think about T-God today? I know that T got absolutely ripped yesterday, and we had Johnny Mack break that down in our 6 p.m. show on our podcast. Was that Monday or Tuesday he broke down their chart? I think it was Monday.
Yeah.
And it was looking like it was about to start going, and look at them go. I mean, they absolutely rip. I'm going to pull up their chart right now. I don't know if my NDI is working, but I haven't asked that in a while, so NDI! They might have heard me in the back. And pulling up their 6-month chart. Okay, so they broke through the Bollinger Bands, gapped up, like all gaps, because there was a 1 cent gap there, which sounds stupid. How many percentage of gaps, Phil?
I hear somewhere around 92%. Could be wrong.
92% of gaps fill.
I wouldn't listen to me though.
I don't think they have my NDI, but nonetheless, I'm looking at T-God right now. You know,
it's down 7.6% on 9 million. That's pretty significant volume.
It is. It's a big volume. It came right through the Bollinger Bands again. Look, guys and ladies who are watching this, I think it's being run by a fantastic company, fantastic leadership. I think the company itself, having that much organic production, is going to be fantastic. But you also have to realize as well that people are looking for revenues and they're looking for these other elements. So until then, you're going to get these shaky ups and downs because it's a valuation over $1 billion. I think it'll come too. There's a lot of cannabis going there. I spoke to their grower in Las Vegas and when I was there for MJ Biz conference. He was a smart guy. So yeah, I think it'll be okay.
Well, the price of oil is up as supply is tightening. Did you know that?
I did not know that, and I hope that hopes will.
Well, Will needs a couple other things first, my friend.
So they do have my NDI right now. So what we're going to go to is Marijuana Moment. It's an article that came out because, and this is the one you sent me. I like this one. It's saying that first congressional marijuana vote of 2019 officially scheduled for next week. So essentially, what it is that it's a bipartisan bill designed to protect banks that service the marijuana industry. If people remember, in January 4th of 2018, Jeff Sessions rescinded the Cole memo. The Cole memo was basically what allowed these banks to do financing with these cannabis companies. That's gone. Since January, all these cannabis companies are working strictly with cash. How is that supposed to work? And
duffel bags.
Oh, terrible. People are going to get robbed. You never even know. So Edward from Deonamed was on last week on the show, and we had a little bit of a segment where we were talking about this, and like there has to be change. Well, this is interesting because there's a paragraph here. We're getting my NDI up for one moment again, because I'm looking for the paragraph that caught my eye. I highlighted it on our Twitter. But essentially what it is that they've been trying to pass these bills. Oh, here we go. All of this sets the stage for a potentially game-changing vote, as Republican leadership during the last contest consistently blocked marijuana-related bills from even being considered. With Democrats now in control, and leading lawmakers embracing the legislation, look at Boehner, he's now come onto the board, I can't remember what company right now, Acreage, thank you. It stands a good chance of heading to the full House and then on to the Senate. If that goes through, if you're able to allow banks to enter the market of cannabis in the United States, watch out, they will most likely just absolutely rip.
Yeah,
so
that's
my thought.
Not advice, but I definitely think that could be a huge catalyst.
Yeah.
Because duffel bags, not safe.
No, I don't mind a duffel bag of money if you've got one of those.
But it hits, I mean, it's a big thing.
Oh, think of all the employees. You've got Marianne who's sitting there. You've got Bobby who's sitting at the cash register, and all the while there's $5 million in greenbacks in a bag in the back or a safe. That's not safe for those people. That's not how you do business anymore. You don't go through fiat money like that. It's archaic.
Crypto.
It's archaic, folks.
What about crypto?
I don't like crypto. If it's not back to the money, if it's not tied to the money supply, it's not money. I don't care what anyone else says, even though money is anything generally accepted for the transaction of services and goods. I don't take crypto seriously. Because it's not tied to the money supply, which means the federal banks can't control it, which means they can't control inflation, which means they can't control GDP, or they can't control their exchange rates, and then all of a sudden everything's out of wonk. I don't see it happening anytime soon. That's my rant.
Sounds like you went to economics school.
A little bit, yeah. I love economics. It's important, folks. Understand how your world works around you.
What about the free market?
Sorry?
The free market.
In what sense?
The free market. manipulation, you're manipulating this, you're controlling that. What about the free market?
It's the invisible hand. The invisible hand does what the invisible hand wants.
But is that what the people want?
I don't know. Yeah, some people also want socialism. Then you can look over in Venezuela and ask me how that went.
Well, what are you going to do with all this debt, my friend? Just keep printing?
Keep printing until a major catalyst in war happens.
Printing and manipulating. Print, manipulate.
Printing, what really destroyed our banking system is fractional banking. Back in the 1800s, fractional banking began. Up until that point, $1 was actually worth $1. Actually, a huge thing was it
Gold.
Nixon?
Gold.
Was it Nixon?
Nixon took us off the gold standard.
Nixon, right? Took us off the gold standard where it had an actual value to a rare earth.
Well, that was
something
basically fiat.
Solid. And now we're basically, the greenback is now basically backed by oil. That happened in the 70s after the gold came back. And then Kennedy came in, and Kennedy tried bringing the gold standard back. And what happened to Kennedy, folks?
I'll let you answer that one.
And then the very first thing, the next president that came in, the very first thing he signed to action, very first thing, was canceling what who did I just say? Kennedy tried doing, bringing back to gold. And we're still under fiat, and fractional banking still exists, and we still have a system that's going to crash. One of these days, I just hope that it's not while I'm alive.
Okay, but hold on a second. If it crashes, what's the solution? Do you continue on? Like, okay, you had a crash, you had a flush, all the debt's gone, or a big chunk of it, then what do? You just start the cycle again, I guess? Makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's so hard.
Do you think that there's another solution? Because you can include, you can get cryptos based off gold, I think.
Yeah.
There's gold money, there's a company called Gold Money.
I don't think necessarily that crypto in itself is bad. It's that if you have any understanding of the money supply and how that fixes the short-term aggregate curve and the long-term supply aggregate curve, and how that applies to foreign exchange, inflation, GDP, whatever it be, because of Maynard Keynes, who basically said when you're in you're in a recession or a depression, you need to pump money into your system. Because back when the Great Depression happened, we were actually in equilibrium, the economy was. But we were stuck there. We couldn't do anything because they didn't realize that you still need to pump money into it because that's the stimulus. That's the quantitative easing.
It's interesting that we're talking about this today, Brendan, because there's a Fed meeting today, pretty important one.
Very.
Where, there's going to be some comments made. Maybe there's going to be a rate increase. I don't think the market is expecting one, right? But it directly correlates with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, we had a huge crash there in 2007, 2008, and but we didn't really fix the problem, right? What did we do? We printed money. We put more money into the system to borrow, so people can, borrow money and lend money, and interest rates came down, and real estate boomed, and there's been a really big bullish cycle since then. But the debt has only increased, my friend.
Yeah,
and really what it comes down to is the people,
Yeah.
And if people, a lot of people out there don't have financial IQ, right? So they keep putting more and more and more debt onto their balance sheet. And if you look at where we're at, a lot of people have families, they go to work, they commute because they want to live out in the suburbs. So they, it's 2.5 hours of commuting every day, and they can't make ends meet, and unfortunately they value things that it just keeps adding more debt onto the balance sheet, and at some point it's got to stop.
I got a question for you.
This correlates now into the government yesterday saying they're going to basically take an equity stake in your house.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you make less combined, less than $120,000 income, then if you're going for a new house, you can get CMHC will take 10% equity in your house, which you can pay back later when you sell the house.
Yeah.
If it's a used house, 5%. I mean, at the end of the day, this is government getting involved in what should be a free market. I mean, one really good example of a free market, the parking garage I just parked at, right? I was, driving, and it was a full parking lot. Now, if I came to work every day at the time I come in, and the lot's full, maybe I'm going to go inquire about if I can lease that spot for a month. That's how the free market works, right? What if the government comes in and says, you know what? The top 3 lots you can't rent those out anymore because they're a safety hazard, or something. There's regulation that affects the market, the supply demand. That's manipulation.
Yeah, right? Yeah. 2 questions. One's a statement, one's a question. the one statement is that both classical economics and Keynes economics, both of them, sorry, I keep saying his last name, Keynesian is the actual thing of the economics, both of them agree that governments have no place in business. They should be doing services, and they should be doing, for the most part, regulations. They should not be actually in the doing the actual services, they shouldn't be doing a storefront.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be owning LCBO and basically going through that. But
the problem is who controls the government, right? These are
businesses,
questions.
Corporatization.
Well, yeah, these are questions that people have to ask. It goes back to even cannabis, right? Like, why has cannabis been illegal for so long? People don't have a lot of time to go and research this, but they should. And because, that's how that happened and why it happened. We don't want to allow that to happen with economics for our generations to come, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We need to be smarter.
And here's the question for you. What is easier to control? A society who is so busy and so consumed with debt in their everyday activities, or a society that is intelligent, educated, and has more money to be able to not have to work all those hours, or not have to be able to live 2 hours away? Which one's easier to control?
People that are busy. Yeah, but you know what? Thankfully, I mean, I made a turning point in my life where we're in the information age. You can inform yourself. You can go on YouTube, and I'm not saying you have to watch us every day, but maybe listening to a conversation like this makes you think, I want to look further into these topics, right? You can go into a rabbit hole on YouTube on any of the things that we touched on, and listen to a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
And really, it comes down to what you value. Honestly, it does. Like keeping up with the Joneses, always wanting new shit. Even if you have a really good salary, if you don't have financial IQ, you're maxed out here. Because even if you're making $150,000, $200,000 a year, if you're going and buying and you're leasing a new car, right? And you got the Gucci purse and latest shoes and latest this, latest laptop, this, that, whatever, that's not smart. Now, if you take that money and you live frugally, you limit your overhead and you're investing your money, even if you don't play the risky stocks like we are, you've got a good chance.
Yeah, and that's part of the passion behind all of this and what we're doing, right? Is obviously you and I, the way that we are similar compared to the many ways that we are different, is that we do understand that our investing, what we do with our money, is going to create our wealth. It's not going to be necessarily a job. It's not going to be necessarily what we do over at FTMIG.
Right. Well,
it's investing.
Exactly.
And that's really, but there's this whole passion between both of us trying to teach people what to look for, what to not look for, what to do in your life. We're not going to say, do X, Y, and Z and you're going to be rich. Well, that's a fucking lie. That's not true. That's not real. But if you do certain things, if you watch your expenses, if you say, you know what, you firmly know the difference between a need and a want. It's amazing how those two go together so many times. If you know those things, you can put yourself in a position to hopefully be in a better position to increase your financial worth.
Psychology plays a big role, because marketing and manipulation, and you gotta value different things, my friend.
Yep. One thing from the federal budget, by the way, I know you said that house one for the first buyers. The one I really liked, I can't remember the name of it right now because I only read it once. I think it was in this sheet I had. It was called CTC, I think. Yes, it was. Canada Training Credit. This is one thing I actually love about this budget, is that starting this year, for people between the ages of 25 and 65, you will start to accrue $250 annually in what's called the Canada Training Credit. So this is very much geared towards younger people. The older generations won't have almost any benefit from this because there's not enough time to go by. But basically, it's helping you so that if you have to get retrained, if you need new training for the current career you're in, or you want to go ahead, you can go back to school, and for whatever amount this has been accrued, as long as it's not more than 50% of your tuition, it'll pay it for you. That is what I love to see our tax dollars from, because the more educated a workforce, the higher productivity you have. The higher productivity you have, the greater GDP you have. The greater GDP you have, for the most part, leads to a higher standard of living. Not perfect science, but it's there. Evidence is there. So I love the fact that we're at least putting some money aside for this to help retrain people. This is one of the very few things I've seen the Marno budget and everything he's been doing on his side. I don't agree with a lot of stuff he does. This is one thing I do agree with a lot, and that was just announced.
Johnny Mac talked about that on our show.
He did.
FTMIG at 6 p.m. every day, Monday to Thursday.
Boom, plug. And then lastly, before we jump into Chris Arthur, there's a lot of people who are really upset right now in the cannabis space, especially on the medical side. You'll see it all over Twitter because they're charging the rules, their excise tax. Yeah, I'll pull up our tweet actually. NDI, I think they got it this time, and then we'll head into our interviews for today. On the side here, this is for medical cannabis. This is still not quite don't tax medicine. DPAC also really went off this as well. Same with CFAM. CFAM, they're really trying to lead that charge. They are leading that charge with Aurora and others, and then don't tax medicine. Because what's wrong is that edibles just came out, and they're not just changing edibles, they're changing all of cannabis. Up until now, it was like 10 cents per gram or something that was weight-based. What they're going to turn to is that it'll be for 1 cent for every milligram of THC. Well, for most people, that's fine. And then they're saying here that they get a tax credit. I highlighted it. So, okay, you might get a tax credit back. But the problem is that for medical patients, in order to get the efficacy, you need a lot of THC sometimes.
Pull up some tweets from that people that are tweeting out they don't like this this tax situation.
DPAC here, Canada's evidence-based medical cannabis, formerly Canada Standard, launches. So here's Trina Fraser. Trina Fraser is another advocate for cannabis. Great Twitter account to follow, at Trina Fraser, just along with DPAC as well. In the rec stream, I can get on board with calculating excise duty on THC. In the med stream, this must feel like another slap in the face to those using THC to treat nausea, pain, PTSD, etc. Because now they're going to be taxed a lot more, especially for those who don't have an income, because you need to make at least $10,000 in order to get this tax credit they're having. If you don't have an income and you're solely relying on medical cannabis, you're now going to get charged all that tax, and you're not going to get that tax break either because you didn't make over $10,000 that year because you're ill.
I remember.
You're sick.
Yeah, no, a lot of people were not expecting this.
So yeah, no.
But listen, a lot of people also said cannabis is good because they can bring in tax dollars. So you can't lobby for that, you know, to get cannabis to where we are now, and then, you know, not be having like.
Yes. Hey, some great feedback here, by the way. Paul Batshaw said, wow, love listening to you guys have a chat about macro and psychology. Macroeconomics, he means. Very smart. Appreciate it, right? I appreciate it because this is Paul Batshaw. Comment in the YouTube, in Midas Letter's YouTube.
Paul, listen, you know what? I'm a big fan of that, and it changed my life, and that's what I like to talk about mostly because, to be honest with you, it's very important.
Yeah, it absolutely
very
is.
Important.
If
you can change your life if you just change the way you think and value things.
Yeah.
Literally. And like, I know I have a brand new laptop here, but I had my last one for 10 years.
Yeah.
And literally the Wi-Fi stopped working, this stopped working, so I got a new one.
Nothing wrong with material goods, guys. There's nothing wrong with material goods. Just don't worship them.
I got a refurbished one.
Yeah. Don't worship them.
It's the same warranty. It was just an open box, and hopefully I'll have this for another 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Brent DeBurn is asking in our FTMIG Live, will Prev be affiliated with Asterion? Well, tune in about 1:45 or 1:50. You will find out, because that was definitely asked in our interview today. We were actually supposed to start going into our interviews, but I liked the banter, so we kept with it. Because it's not all about the companies all the time, guys.
No, it can't
and
be
ladies.
Can't be just constantly shoving companies down. You know, you got to talk.
Education, all that. But we are going to turn over, speaking of education, to Chris Arthur, because every single week in Follow the Money Investor Group, in the private one, we do it in the public one, but the private allows you to add your own topics to a poll. The public ones do not, where we start a poll. It's called Ask a Fund Manager. You usually start around Sundays each night. And essentially, if you've got a question for Chris, he's a great guy, put it in there, and then you can vote on it. And we're joining here. Friends can vote on it, all of that, and we can get that all set. So the top 4 that were on for this poll are fantastic ones. I loved the questions, and I love the answers even more. So we'll go over to Chris Arthur right now and see what we have to say about those questions that you had in our poll.
Thanks.
And we're joined here today with Stephen Van Deventer, CEO of Prevceutical Medical Incorporated. My good sir, welcome back to the show.
Good to speak to you again this morning. That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's been some time since you last came on. We went through a little bit of an overview of who you are. You can always go to FTMIG.com and just search in the bar Pravceutical, and that interview will come up. A lot has transpired since then. We got some updates to go over, what investors should be looking into. But I did want to start at the very top of the hour, top of the interview, going over the elephant in the room, and that is what is catching a lot of people off guard recently is this whole Bridgemark scandal. Are you able to talk about that a little bit?
And the advice of our lawyers, I can't talk much about it at this point because it's in the hands of the courts. But I can say that, as the situation has developed, we've filed a statement of claim. That statement of claim is readily available to anybody to read, and it really gives a good detailed outline of the plan of events that happened. But if you look at the details on it, the events didn't, like once the transaction happened, we immediately realized something was wrong and started taking action. However, as it's now progressed, we put it in the court's hands, and me as the CEO is responsible for this company. And all the feedback I get from every one of our shareholders, especially the larger ones that have been invested since day one, is they want us to actively pursue this because they feel that it's been unjust towards us. So we're basically will be doing that, and it's my responsibility to act on that as the shareholders wish.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I understand as well that once things get passed over to lawyers, it's always best to leave that in their hands. That's why you pass it off to them in the first place. But that is a situation that has affected many different companies across many different sectors, and it's one that I'm keeping a very close eye on, and so is our community, as it's we're just very curious to see how this unfolds, as we do personally also think there's been a lot of wrongdoing happen to certain companies. It's good to see that you're acting on it.
Which is kind of a strange thing to myself. I've seen that, in the BC Securities Commission document they put together, they named 11 companies that were somehow associated with it. And it's strange to myself that I haven't seen one other company take action against the Bridgemark Group. But anyway, that's up to each company themselves. But we've got a really good legal team. The due diligence has been thoroughly done by our internal team and our legal team. And there are some advancements that are happening that, to be honest with you, in the very near future, short-term future here, you should start getting some news from us. So let's put it this way. As this advances, I'll be assured to put out news to our shareholders to keep them fully updated exactly where we're at.
And I appreciate that. Looking forward to see what transpires there. As for Pravceutical in itself, it's been a few months since we last had you on the show. What's going on over there? What are investors looking into, and what can they get excited about over these coming next few months?
Well, I'll start off with the bland section, and we'll get to the fun part of it. So, as you know, Pravceutical has 4 major programs in place. We have the Sol Gel, which is the infusion of the cannabinoids. We have the Dynorphin, which is the painkiller that you cannot create tolerance to, cannot create addiction to. We have the dual gene therapy, which is the diabetes and obesity, and that's actually one of my favorites because how great and what a massive problem diabetes in the world. This really can solve a lot of problems for people. So ultimately, the programs are all moving ahead, and we have the synthetic scorpion venom that we're synthesizing, and we just put a press release out. We just completed phase 2, and we have phase 3 to go. So these 4 programs we started over the last 2 years. The shortest program is about 26 months, and the longest program is 48 months. So if you start to do the math, these programs, some of them are now getting to the tail end of them, where now all of the results and testing we've got for them can come forth. And this is an important factor, especially in R&D. As a shareholder, and I've been a shareholder of many R&D companies in the past, one of the biggest issues is with R&D, it takes a lot of money you put into it, but you've got to be cautious of what information you release to the public, because if somebody else figures out what you're doing, that could then terribly damage your value of your IP. So, but at the same time, shareholders want to see something. So we're being very cautious in what we filed to date, but I do assure you that to this point, we're talking to our scientists, talking to the University of Queensland, and actually I'll be leaving and at the beginning of April to go sit down with my scientists and the university, is that in some of the programs now, it's time to start filing patents. And so part of these discussions and talks we'll be doing is which ones do we file? Are we protected well enough on them yet? Should we wait 30 more days for this one piece of the pie? So we're going to have all of our legal team, our patent lawyers, and everybody there deciding on how that process. So after this trip, I think you'll see as this year progresses, we will now be able to actually start shareholders' real value of IP that has been filed will be patent pending.
Yeah, very interesting. And you do bring up a good point as well, especially with research and development. You know, it's obviously you're going into a new field. That's why it's research and then developing it. You don't want to give away those things too early so that another team can start right at the same stage you're at, and now it's a race to get that final stage. That's something you always have to be very, very careful of.
Right. Mm-hmm. But we do expect some good developments. Well, we know we've had good developments. It's a matter of taking that, documenting, and securing that IP that we can start to attach values to it.
Very interesting. And then you said there was a mundane part just because of, facts and all that, and then there was another aspect. What would that be?
Yeah. So let's touch on basically let's touch on the Penta 5 deal for a moment, because I get a lot of calls from shareholders, and I'm sure you guys do, and they probably ask some questions on the Penta 5. As you know, and we've explained that the transaction, we had a time limit on our due diligence, and that ran out. We elected not to extend that for multiple reasons. That, yes, there's some great products, but there were some accounting issues on our side where I couldn't justify certain things. So we let the transaction fall apart. However, we are looking at certain pieces in that company that we believe could be very good for us. So that's on what's happened with Penta 5 so far today. Actively, as you know, in this R&D program, with the 4 R&D programs we have, we've been actively looking to try to create revenue-generating products now, because as you know, R&D is put more money in, keep going, and where's the revenue? Shareholders are asking for revenue. That's why we looked at the Penta 5. And we're currently looking at 2 or 3 other items that we suspect are looking quite one of them is looking very promising. And hopefully if we can put these things to bed in the next couple of months, we should be able to have some products that we can start getting out there and start generating revenues. And those products that we're looking at come with clinical evidence and scientific proof behind them, so it's not just a hearsay.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see those come to fruition there. Another aspect, though, of your company, and one that I'm sure investors have been paying attention to over the last little while, and we went right into the Prevceutical Facebook group. If you're looking for that to find other investors that are in this company as well, Prevceutical Medical Incorporated Investors Group, you can find that on Facebook. About 900 different people to talk and converse with. We went there to ask questions, and one of the biggest questions that we got, and I like this one a lot, is what's the role or the relationship that Prevceutical will have with Asterion, a new company that you were creating and putting together? What can investors expect there?
Okay, so I love Prevceutical. Prevceutical really is my number 1 priority, always has been. But I'm an active guy, and I've got a lot of bandwidth. And as you know, with R&D, I'm not the person sitting in the lab doing it every day. So a lot of my shareholders and people that invested with me in prior companies, for example, I put the RTO together and helped finance and take the original and take Aurora Cannabis public in the beginning. So a lot of these shareholders came to me and said, "Steve, will you look at another cannabis project?" So I looked at the Canadian market. There was 113 LPs at the time. The winners have been picked: Aurora, Canopy, Tilray, Afia. They've been picked by the institutions. In the United States, we won't touch until federal law changes. A lot of people looking at South America, but I've been in the capital markets for over 25 years, and I've seen people build a mine there. The next minute, the authorities or some group come in and say, "Get out," and your investment's gone. And I feel Europe's a little too fragmented. So with our relationship we already have with Prevceutical and the University of Queensland, it makes natural sense to look at Australia. So we've actually moved very fast there. that company's accelerated very quickly. And so we've signed a deal where we're going to be working on a cannabis solutions together. So the purpose between the two is, number one, because Prevacutical already has imported into Australia and exported cannabis from Aurora Cannabis to our lab in Queensland University, we have the access to the cannabis to be able to infuse in the soul gel. So the R&D on that is moving forward, but having to have what the Queensland government really likes is being able to take our soul gel technology that we have in Prevacutical, and once we have the cannabis product ourselves, we can then, basically we don't have to go find the product to be able to develop the product, and actually commercialize it. So that's where the relationship begins there. And so with their moving in the future, we would look at two shareholders, do we do a licensing agreement with Asterion? Does Asterion invest a whole bunch of money into Prevacutical for a part ownership of the IP or a royalty stream? So this is where we're moving forward and sort of discussing that. But to make very, very clear, I'm a large shareholder in both companies, so I would be putting these ideas forth to the board, and myself and any of my personal family members will abstain from any decisions on that because we want to do what the shareholders want, not what I personally desire.
Yeah, very interestingly put. And yeah, it's something that on our phone calls together, I actually learned myself. I did not know you were in the original Aurora capital structure and bringing that public. I'm sure investors who dug a lot, it's all there in papers and all that, but no, very interesting. And now seeing about doing it again, and this time and quite literally across the world.
Well, it's this project, it's 4.3 million square feet we're building there. We've got a full R&D facility it's going to have. We've got a full manufacturing and fusion facility that'll be built. So it's just, it makes natural common sense to take the soul gel that Prevacutical is doing and marry it with Asterion. And this is, I've talked to a lot of doctors and scientists. We've been to like Lady Sandro's Hospital in Australia, in Queensland. I've been to about 4 of them. And 1 in 2 patients are asking for cannabis, and they're having a problem getting it. So I've sat down now and talked to the director of the hospital. I've talked to a lot of the doctors and oncologists, etc. And one of the biggest problems they have is, as you and I both know, which I would consider Canada probably has one of the best regulations today for cannabis compared to the other countries in the world. But if you look at the actual regulations, it concerns some of the doctors. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're supposed to take lemon haze, for whatever ailment you want to look, to treat. Well, on the actual canister, when you buy it, it'll say 20% THC or 18% CBD or whatever it may be. Well, 20%. Health Canada allows the LPs to have a plus minus 20%. So that means that in that thing, it can be 16 to 24%, that 20% canister. That's a 40% variable. So how does a doctor prescribe you what you should be having when there's a 40% variable? What we're doing with Asterion is, because of our plant tissue and genome culturing we're doing, every strain will be genetically the same because it's a clone. So we know that every plant will be 20% all the way through. And now by taking that and infusing in the soul gel, doctors now can actually figure out how to dose, how many milligrams people require and stuff, because that will be all part of our research. So it's not like, take, 10 milligrams of the lemon haze a day, but, you're not sure if it's 8 or 12.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something I hear time and time again. The doctors are not necessarily against cannabis and the different ways that you can use it for medical purposes or whatever it be, but more so they just want a more scientific, a more specific, a more exact science behind how much you're actually administering. So it would be very interesting to see that come to fruition. But for back to Prevacutical, we've just got a couple of minutes left here. If you were to say to all of your investors out there, what should you be interested in? What is the catalyst or catalysts about to come out in the next couple of months? What would you say to them?
I'd say there's a few sections they should be looking at. Number one, the R&D we're doing on the soul gel. specifically the Sol Gel, the dynorphins, and the scorpion venom, those three, you should start seeing patents and stuff in the next few months starting to be filed. And those patents will start to give you an idea of how detailed the scope work's being done and how strong it is, and we will start to be able to get it back. So that's one of the things you'll be able to see coming in the future. Secondary thing you'll see as well is that we're actively, as I said, looking for revenue-generating products. And other alternatives. There's some really strong ones that I'm in the process of negotiating. And, there's quite a good likelihood that within the next 30 to 60 days, we could actually close on one of those. And the one that I'm thinking about, which I can't say much about yet, it's perfect. It fits right into our sports network. We work with Sports One marketing, and they have all the talents and concussions and brain function. So it's along those lines, and there's clinical proof about it, and it's absolutely amazing what I've seen on the science to date. And the people behind it are regional people, so we seem to be having a good relationship. So that's a secondary thing I believe you can see coming along. And then thirdly, talking about the litigation that's going on, there's definitely some news that's in our favor coming in the future here and in the very near future. And once those news releases be put out and keep it up to date, shareholders start to get the understanding and confidence on what we're doing, because we will execute as we say we will.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate that. Yes, and definitely some things coming down the pipeline to look forward to. Very interested to see where the lawsuit in different areas of that whole situation transpire, not just for yourself, not just for Prevceutical, but for a lot of investors out there as well. This goes so much greater than that, but specifically to this interview, though, I'd love to see it for Prevceutical. And yeah, very, very curious, and I appreciate very much coming on the show and giving us your time.
Great. Appreciate you having me on the show today, and I look forward to bringing a whole bunch of results ahead and forthwith to our shareholders. Gain their confidence again. We're not going anywhere. We're a legitimate company. We're full office, people full time. I personally got $4.5 million of my own money invested into this company, so I'm not going anywhere either until this is a success.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Stephen. I appreciate it very much, and look forward to having you on again in the very near future to possibly discuss about one of those updates soon to come.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
People who are magically in my ear telling me that my mic had turned off for that period, so my apologies there, but I appreciate it very much, and especially allowing us to ask that question. Look, that Bridgemark thing is something that we've been following very closely. They've taken a stance, an aggressive one actually, launching a lawsuit, and at that point it is in the hands of the lawyers. So
we're done now with Bridgemark and Prevceutical. What do you think about them? What did you like about the interview?
I always like talking to Stephen, and I even said in the interview, I didn't realize that he was a part of the very beginning of setting up Aurora. Mm-hmm. That was news to me when we were on our call earlier with them, but then also on the interview there, and then what they're doing with Asterion in Australia, and the synergies that can happen between Prevceutical and Asterion are very unique. Yeah, I'm very curious about seeing more progress there, and the biggest thing is that there may or may not be something coming down on the case of the lawyer side. Very ambiguous, because obviously you can't say that, but could be in the next little while. I'm very, very curious about that.
Well, listen, we need to get past that, and yeah, get on with the company.
Mind, Body, Spirit, and Zen says, great interview, while Mr. Green Thumb says, haha, that was funny. Because one was talking about the interview and one was talking about the fact that I came off and didn't have any sound. I didn't know for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's what we do around here to try to stop Brandon from talking.
Just shut up, my mic.
Yeah, but you did throw actually to the fund manager, and it was actually Prev that started. So we'll still have to get to that.
Yeah.
Mr. Brandon.
Yeah, and
Evenco, 51 cents, up another 10, almost 11%.
Love that. And oh, that actually reminds me, I did go to Evenco's Facebook group. Melinda was to be on today to talk about their development of $18.7 million debt financing, opposed to going through shares and dilution.
You mean MCAP?
Or MCAP, like they've been for everywhere else. And then to do that with a Schedule I Big Six bank in RBC for our Americans here, that's a big deal. The Big Six, like those are the banks you want.
They're a client.
That's RBC's first one to go into the cannabis space.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
Evenco is our client, everybody knows that. But yeah, absolutely. We talked about it on our show that airs on our network, 6 p.m., Monday to Thursday. We've been talking a lot about Evenco because, you know what, we criticized them a little bit for we were very open and frank about the MMCAP situation, converting their debt and using the public market to take some of their capital back. And that was hammering the stock down. And now they have a catalyst that has changed the fundamentals of the company, and the stock is liking it.
It is. Mark says this is probably the best interview from Prev and Steven that has come about. Thank you so much, Brandon and FTMIG, although as well, for having so many shareholders' confidence back.
Well,
fucking
listen,
love that.
We are just an outlet to let companies tell their story. We can't tell those stories for them, nor should we. And you know, so that's a full credit to Steven and the gang over there at Prevaceuticals. So you know, appreciate you guys coming on here and using us and Midas, and you know, there's a Facebook group dedicated to Prevaceutical, and they want to hear from you.
And it just goes to show, right? And I think you worded it perfectly, man. You know, we don't necessarily tell the story. We tell the aspects of the story. If like Evenco's chart was ripping on Monday, so we broke down the chart because it was a technical breakout. But at the end of the day, I love seeing that these companies are understanding our vision in the sense that building a platform of exposure and to speak on, so when they come on, when news happens or something happens, they can now have a platform to speak to their investors that isn't just a news release. Nothing wrong with news releases.
Correct.
But hearing and seeing their face, it's different.
Yeah, it's a community. Different. We have a community, and it's credible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Connor in the back has that clip. If not, it's okay. I put that on you last minute, but...
He is still trying to find it. The secret voice in my ear is telling me. And by secret, I mean it's Connor. There's no secret anymore.
Yeah. Well, no expectations there at all. I definitely was just thinking about it, so.
Yeah. No. And yeah, we still have Chris Arthur coming up. He really, I love the questions that were asked.
Agra.
And I love the answers that came up. What's Agra at?
69 cents.
69, just ripping. Just ripping.
You mean the ripping in the Terran? The ripping in the Terran?
Oh yeah, just ripping. We're just ripping everybody.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No idea.
You don't know Hito Rick?
No.
Come on.
Hito Rick?
Don't make
What's Hito Rick?
You don't know Hito Rick?
No.
Go on YouTube, put in Hito Rick.
Okay. Interesting. I will have to look into Hito Rick.
You don't do those things in Burlington.
Yeah. Burlington, son, I'm from Sauga.
No, you're not, dude.
I was born and raised in Sauga, in Mississauga for like 12 years. 12 years, and then Streetsville, and then Oakville, then Burlington, then back to Oakville, then Etobicoke, then back to Burlington, then Muskoka, then back to Burlington, and now in Toronto.
Nobody cares.
Well, apparently you cared just a second ago. This guy.
How do you not know Hito Rick?
I don't know Hito Rick. I don't know.
The ripping in the Terran.
Yeah.
Come on.
Folks, get up
your NDI. Put up your NDI.
No, go into the comments. Go in the comments. Do you know who Hito Rick is? Folks.
Dude.
Folks. Go in the comments. I don't see anything yet.
All right, there you go. See, they pulled up your NDI for you.
Yeah, they pulled
Go on YouTube and put in Hito Rick.
They won't show it.
Break from the markets.
Look how skippy it is. Look how skippy it is.
Who cares?
Give Facebook. Facebook. Oh, nobody from Facebook or YouTube yet has said they know who Hito Rick is. This must be an Oshawa thing.
You could have pulled it up already.
Aren't you from Oshawa?
It's a quick clip. No, I am not from
Bowmanville.
Oshawa. Listen, I am not from Bowmanville.
Ajax.
You really don't know where I'm from?
I keep forgetting. You're somewhere over there that nobody goes.
Yeah, see, that's typical arrogant West Enders. They don't even care about anything else.
Yeah, no, because we are the epicenter of the world, and we don't know anything east of the line where it stops after Toronto. We don't know what happens after that.
I'll get Nelly in the background to give you a headlock right now. It wouldn't be the first time I've seen him do it.
Oh, here. We did get some answers for you. Hey, look, we did get some answers.
Of course.
Nope. No clue.
You don't. How do you not know?
Karl is so crazy. I can't believe he's even on here talking about these different things, even though what I am reading right now is completely made up by myself.
Hey, I am kind of crazy.
That was a comment. That wasn't real.
All right.
Anyway, I think Maxed Out here did know who it was. That's one out of
Dude,
like 3.
you could have easily pulled it up for the people.
When you're looking at there, it's so skippy. Videos won't work it that way. That's why I'm stopping, because I know, because I'm from Mississauga and I learned it.
Stupid.
Well, folks, back to educational. Let's go to educational, because
if you want to
time,
see Brandon and I fight a little bit more, tune in at 6 p.m. on FTMIG.
We'll fight a little bit. Fight a bit. It's not my fault. It's not a fight if I'm always right.
A little bit of a different feel on that show, I'll tell you.
Yeah, if I'm always right, though, how is it a fight?
Drop an elbow.
That rhymes. If I'm always right, why is it a fight? All it is an argument of trying to prove myself each time.
No, you're really smart. Really smart guy.
But you're smarter than me.
I'm not smarter. I'm definitely not smarter than anyone.
That's a lie, because there's somewhere out there, at least, like babies, when they come out, they don't know anything. You're smarter than every single one of them.
Listen, dude.
So you are smarter than someone.
70s on the ask on Agra.
Yeah, because they were just added to the HMMJ.
Were they?
Yeah, that started that big push, being on HMMJ.
I think there's some really savvy capital markets people behind this stock, man.
Yeah.
The way it trades, it rocketed, then it consolidated really nicely, no gaps.
Yeah. No, she's moving, man. I've played her a few times now.
Why are you referring to a she?
I played him a few times.
This is gender neutral, bro.
I can do whatever I want.
Why are you relating it to it as a she?
What do you call your car? Is it a he, a she, or an it?
I wouldn't tell you on this program.
What is your car? If you had a Mustang or you had some sort of car that you loved, is it a she, he, or an it?
No, it's gender neutral. You know what I call my car? Boom boom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not he or she. But again, for another segue, and this time hopefully we segue right into the actual interview. I believe in our guys in the back. They're fantastic. Chris Arthur going over the questions that won in our poll, and he's getting good at this. He already was, but he's getting even better because it's really starting to flow. He's got some amazing answers. Let's change from banter to education right now. And we're joined here again by Chris Arthur, because again, we're doing Ask a Fund Manager. My man, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yourself, Brandon?
Doing fantastic. It's been a very, very busy last little while, and pot stocks, they're moving.
Oh, they are. They are.
Yeah, that's great to see, but it's also, just be careful, folks. Don't get some FOMO or a case of fear of missing out. You want to make sure that you
buy those highs and keep thinking it's going higher and higher.
Exactly. But for those who are already in or looking to get in, at the same time, it's just nice to see.
Yep.
So we had a few questions, like we always do, and they are as follows. Are we heading into a global recession? And if so, what are you doing to hedge?
Yeah.
Love that one. I actually love that. Is the stock market fair for your average retail investor? Whatever you say, I've got an answer to that as well.
I'm sure you do.
Where are you currently the most focused on in terms of sector and or company?
Yeah.
Very interesting one as well. A little bit more personal, maybe not, maybe from the fund side. And then lastly, how does ETF rebalancing work and how can you trade it? Really good questions this time.
No, yeah, I really like the lineup today. I'll jump right into the recession question. Obviously very top of mind. My personal thoughts on this matter is I think we'll see very low returns for 2019, but I don't think we'll see recession-like activity till 2020 or 2021. When we look at what some analysts are saying, we look at the senior economist of Wells Fargo. He's specifically saying the economy is not falling apart, not by any stretch of the imagination. He recently said this in a recent interview.
Gotcha.
Everything's not good, obviously, with Trump's issues, the tariffs, the wall coming up, dealing with what's going to happen with the UK after Brexit, oil's plunging, high levels of government, corporate debt. There's a few things on our radar that are negative in matter, but analysts and economists think we're okay for 2019. The money's spent, the writing's a bit on the wall. It's 2020, 2021 that we should be prepared for.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Well, you have to have 2 negative quarters in a row, 2 deficits in a row for it to actually be technically a recession.
A recession, yeah.
And I do not believe our last quarter was. I think we were still doing fine for that. It's hard because you hear it all in the different publications, and you're hearing this, oh, everything's going to be terrible, watch out. And then the other ones are like, you know what, no, it's not too bad. So they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
I think even today, is not today or tomorrow, that the United States, that the Fed is talking about whether they're going to their outlook and raise rates.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that for sure. I don't think the sentiment is that he's going to, because they're still a little bit worried about all these elements that you just said.
Yeah.
So from my side, even though I have almost no authority to say this, I do not think we're going to see it this year.
No.
I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, generally, we're almost, let's say, 3-4 months into the year. The writing's pretty much on the wall for what's going to happen for 2019. Obviously, things are progressing in a negative manner, so eventually, if this trend continues, we're going to see some type of recession-like activity, whether it be 2020, 2021. I think it will occur. And when looking at past recessions, we often see an excess in the U.S. economy, whether it be the tech bubble, whether it be the commercial real estate market or the housing market crises. We're just not seeing that kind of excess in the U.S. economy right now. But then again, my advice would be keep an eye on things. 2020, 2021, I expect to see some activity.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with recessions, people. There's nothing wrong with a nice soft landing. It has to happen. You have to curb inflation. Yeah, it's done on purpose. Like the Fed or the Bank of Canada, whoever it be, they purposely pull things back because you have to. You can't let it get too hot. It gets too, and then you can have like an actual crash.
A full-on crash,
opposed to what they call in economics, obviously, soft landing, pull back, and then keep going.
Pullback, nice little pullback.
What you're saying. Same thing with stocks, same thing with markets.
Yeah, so in terms of what am I doing to hedge right now, currently I'm not doing any, let's say, very active hedging strategies. I've switched some of my more volatile holdings into defensive positions, and I've been using options to further lower my adjusted cost base on those positions, and I've been putting a bit more in the private markets. With these two sort of sectors, depending on where you're putting money in the private market, they're usually less correlated to U.S. equities. So that's my rationale there, and I can explain a bit more my strategy for using these options, maybe in another segment too.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that. That's definitely a segment where we make sure that everyone calls you out on that too later, so make sure you do.
It's a great strategy and really helps lower your adjusted cost base over time if you're looking at very solid companies. So yeah, I can definitely go into how I can make some money there.
Awesome, I appreciate that. For another time, folks, for another time. The second question that was on the second highest voted from the poll.
Yeah, okay, is the stock market fair for your average retail investor? So when I was doing a bit of research for this question, I found a great quote, which I want to read from an old trader from Deutsche Bank. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this one here, and I think it really tells a nice story. So he started by saying, I remember my days at Deutsche Bank in Citi, where I could trade anything I wanted for almost zero cost, call any salesperson, and get any price for any instrument. It was fun, but it was also a showcase of the long history of dominant hierarchy that financial institutions had towards the other market participants, and specifically the retail traders. Some will tell you that the markets are efficient, but the truth is that this natural dominance will always create an unfair landscape for some participants. Superiority in this hierarchy is driven by an ability to access the best price of a financial instrument to be bought or sold, as well as the cost and quality of transaction execution.
Yeah,
I think this really speaks very true to what we're seeing. What are your thoughts on that statement? It's pretty loaded.
It is absolutely not fair. I actually had a clip from one of our podcasts a couple nights ago where I was talking about, is it fair to be a retail investor? Absolutely not. There is a game being played. This is not fair. This is a game. And you need to understand and learn the parameters of that game so that you can hopefully get around it, because you're the underdog. When you're talking about algos, when you talk about how all these institutions have L3 so they can see a lot more that you can't see, and they can even find out where your stop losses are so they know just how much to push it to start
touching on that a tiny bit too.
To trigger those. You've got the dark pool. You've got the fact that they have so much more firepower to be able to use than you. There's just so many different elements that no, it is it is not a fair market.
No, yeah, and I would agree. By no sense of the stance can you say this is a completely fair market.
Yeah.
They are the minority. So there's thousands of these institutions, but there's millions and millions of retail traders.
Yeah.
Yet they hold 90% of the capital. So things are in their favor. So when we do look at their advantages, we're looking at, the dark pools, high frequency trading, the algos. But one that most people don't know about is they can see the order flows of their specific clients. Yeah. They have traders specifically watching what you or I are doing, and then they can make predictions on what is happening and what is going to happen in the market, which is completely unheard of. And they actually stack traders in these positions to profit from those order flows.
Yeah.
That one I find very unique, that they're putting traders to watch what we do to make money off what we do.
Yeah. Now, I was talking to someone actually, a good friend of mine from back in high school, met him at my barber's back in, I think, December. And works in IT, very, very good at what he does. Like he gets really, really good jobs with different corporations, and one of the big 6 banks was trying to hire him because they wanted him to make an algorithm that would read Twitter and different social media platforms, so they can use that and use the terms and the tickers that are being said, so they can have an algorithm that could trade on the
investor sentiment
of investors. Like that goes above and beyond the fear and greed bot that they have that goes through like 8 or 9 different sectors. Like they're quite literally seeing it. And think of it, if you start seeing a stock and the RSI is starting to get overbought, then all of a sudden, if you're looking in the background and you start seeing some stop losses going in and then more stop losses, that's basically telling you that investors saying, hey, I'm happy with what I have right now. If it starts pulling back, I want to protect my gains. Yeah. If you knew that and you were shorting it, you just had to trigger some of those.
You're seeing the markers, like you can just set it up.
It's crazy.
So as a retail investor, you're at a disadvantage. You have higher cost of transactions. You don't see those order flows. You don't have all the algos, dark pools, high frequency trading on your side, and then they get to see your order flow. So you're stacked up quite against your disadvantage. So do I think it's fair? No, I don't think it's fair, but I still think there's money to be made in the market for a retail investor.
Absolutely, and this is why, plug time. This is why we built our community, FTMIG.com. Yeah. This is why watching a show like Midas is fantastic. This is why going over to our chat rooms is fantastic. This is why, because you want to learn, and in numbers, you do and you can have a say. Look at the company block play. That did not work out for investors from the share price side of things, but investors saw something that was wrong. They felt that they were able to stand up against this. This leads back to the Bridgemark scandal that is still going on, and regulators are still trying to figure that all out, where they saw something, they stood up in numbers, and actually come the AGM meeting for that company, every single director resigned before they got there, so that they had to have the stock exchange there because there was no representative from the company to pass it on to the new directors that were being voted in. That's the power of shareholders. That's the power of voting in numbers. That's the power of a community. So just putting it out there. There is power, but it's still definitely not fair.
No, and all those points are stacking things to your advantage. So the more you learn, the more research you do, the more involved you are in communities like this, more chips are in your favor when you are investing in these kind of markets.
Absolutely. All right, the third question of our 4 questions.
So what sectors am I most interested in? I'm most interested this year in, I like the healthcare space, information technology, aerospace, and I definitely like emerging markets over the next few years. Healthcare, we're seeing a lot of money being flown to defensive industries. So defensive industry meaning an industry that isn't really affected by the financial climate. So whether you're flush with cash, great markets, or things are a bit tighter, healthcare is always a priority. Yeah. So with these defensive industries, you're looking for companies that are very mature, stable earnings, paying out very solid dividends, and they also have betas of less than 1. What this typically means is when you have a beta of less than 1 and the market plunges, you plunge less than the market, and when it rises, you just rise a bit less. Yeah. Opposed to betas larger than 1, like some of our cannabis and mining stocks, when the market rises, they'll rise a lot higher, but when it dips, they'll dip a lot lower. Yeah. So with defensive industries, we're looking for safer plays here. And the healthcare space, I think we're going to see an increase in volume throughout the year as, let's say, things sort of loom with those triggers that we saw for the recession. I think we'll see higher spending in that area.
Nice. And yeah, it's funny. I remember looking at some of the beta of some of these companies when they're going out. This is a couple of years ago. I'm sure they've got some sort of a better algorithm now, but some of them are reading like 350 and like obscene numbers where even at 2, you know, you're twice as volatile as the overall market or wherever that one's covering. So to see numbers like that,
3,000, yeah, that's maybe not too accurate.
I thought it was like 300. I just think whatever platform it was like TMXmoney.com or whatever. I just think it couldn't read cannabis companies at that time because it wasn't there.
Oh yeah, the ratios aren't there.
It was all off. I'm sure now that more time has elapsed and they've gotten benchmarked it against HMMJ and these other ETFs. I'm sure they have a better understanding, but I'm sure it's also they're not at 1.
No, and I think maybe the bigger plays, Canopy, or maybe we'll have more accurate numbers there, but when we look towards the smaller companies, I'd be still skeptical to look at their betas.
It's so skewed. You can't yet. You can't. All right, so then the last question of the 4 questions that were the highest voted on our Follow the Money Investor Group poll. Do this every week. Tune in next time for your own questions if you have one. How does ETF rebalancing work and how can you trade it? We just talked about the HMMJ. This is probably very close to that.
No, yeah. So I'll bring up HMMJ. So with ETFs, they can rebalance for a variety of reasons. Let's say your equity allocation changes. So let's say you're in, let's say, a 70-30 model for your ETF. And let's say that skews. Well, obviously you have to rebalance. You make a deposit, you have to rebalance. Withdrawal, you have to rebalance. But also the ETF will normally rebalance on a quarterly basis. Typically, ETFs sort of track market cap. So if I look at, let's say, the ETF XIC, for example, which tracks the S&P and the TSX, it has 234 holdings, and it does these by market cap. So when we do look at, let's say, maybe there's a place at 235, and this company's doing very well, and its market cap increases, well, then it might jump ahead of that 234 spot, and 234 would be dropped. Yeah. So when this happens, that ETF sells 234 and then buys the 235 spot. So in a sense, all those owners of the ETF are buying this one company. And actually in the XIC, we've seen some of the bigger cannabis plays make it in there. Aurora and Canopy are both in that ETF right now.
Nice.
But how do you make a trade on this? How do you play off this? Well, let's say you see an announcement of, let's say, your target company being added to that ETF. Well, you know that thousands and thousands of ETF holders are going to be buying that company. That'll increase volume and drive the prices up. Same thing if you see an ETF or let's say an individual holding get taken off the ETF. You'll know that thousands and thousands are selling that one holding and driving those prices down. So you want to go long on the companies being added and then go short on the companies being removed. Biggest thing, have to be acting very fast because as you know, these things will get priced in almost immediately.
Yeah, a really good example of that actually just this week was, at least I believe it to be the case, was Agra. Ticker AGRA. It was added to the HMJ fund, and it was ripping. Like it went, and it already had a very good. Now I think it was undervalued. That's me personally, my own personal thought. When it was back in the 30s, 30 cents. And when you look at it and you saw that it was added, and then just these last few days, there's a lot of volume coming in, and there's a lot of buying happening because now that fund needs to buy it. And HMMJ, I think it's just about to finish rebalancing, or just did one of the two. I don't quote me on that, but even just seeing that it was added is enough for people to go, okay, I didn't know about that company before. I saw that a lot when Liberty Leaf and these other smaller ones, when they were added onto it. The only problem is, though, for HMMJ specifically, once you're on there, yes, it helps you at first, but now all of your shares are lent to people shorting, because when you get that dividend from HMMJ, what you're actually getting is the part of the commission from when they shorted your shares to bring down the overall value of your shares. I don't get it, but I get it. But
it's that's a bit of a different beast. But no, it gives them exposure. Companies, let's say not with HMMJ, but let's say XIC, when those big names make it to a list that's not full of cannabis companies, they're competing with very high up companies with large market caps, and a cannabis company makes it, adds to their credibility, gives them exposure, and really helps the company just drive up. So you'll see that volume drive up considerably and help to jump those prices up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that concludes our four. My screen actually went off just as I said that. Our four questions. That concludes it. It's done. My screen's off. The interview's over. But always appreciate you taking off time from work and coming in into the studio and doing this piece for all of our investors. And as I said earlier as well, if you do have questions for Chris or for myself or for any one of us, turn to the poll. I usually start it around Sunday night in our Follow the Money Investor group on the private one, because that's where you can add selections. But yeah, vote on it, add your own, and we'll be here next Wednesday breaking this down again.
No questions too stupid. I'm happy to answer anything you put in there. Don't feel shy or nervous. Throw it in there. I'll be happy to answer it for you guys.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers,
Always
man.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Chris, I know you're watching because I looked at FTMIG Live and I saw that your little thing says Chris joined. So you're watching that. Thank you. People love that.
Huge value, man.
Voltaire says, great convo in the Midas Letter YouTube chat. And it was a great conversation because I learned myself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Trading the ETF rebalance. The Wolf talks about that as well.
He does it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Two things Wolf does very well is the ETF rebalancing and being on top of that, and he loves his options. Loves them. Going to that as well.
It seems like you and Chris got a lot of really good chemistry. Every episode that you guys do, every segment is better and better and better.
Yeah, we go out sometimes for a nice glass of wine and a candlelit dinner, and that really helps build that chemistry so that when you get on to the set, you're able to... I'm joking.
Chris, I'd watch that, man. Chris is a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
He's built, too.
Oh, he's jacked.
See his
jacked
chest
for days, bud.
Protruding from his shirt.
He does not skip gym day.
And he can eat. He can eat a lot. I've had food
Oh, so
with him.
you have had some candlelit dinners with...
Not candlelit, actually, I was with you. There's three of us.
Yeah. But
those segments are amazing. And you know what I love about it? It's our community asking questions.
Yeah.
And then you get value like that.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
No, absolutely. We got a lot of stuff here. Mr. Green Thumbs, nice interview. Travis, great interview. Brennan, great job, guys. And Maxed Out, good info for sure. Appreciate all of you being active in the comment section, and I hope you're enjoying that because, again, yeah, it's right from our members.
Totally.
You have questions, we'll do our best to find you answers, whether it's from Chris Arthur and people like that, or CEOs.
While that interview was on,
Oh.
the Fed said no hike.
No hike.
Hike.
Breaking news, folks. Breaking.
They also did lower rates.
They did not hike them. They did not.
Now, how
Lower them.
many rate hikes was the market pricing in this year? Is that why the market has moved up? Because now
I actually don't know.
They're pulling back.
Last year, it was something like 3 or 4 for Canada, I was pretty sure, and we have not done that. I'm pretty sure that December spooked a lot of people up until the plunge protection team, or crew, I think they said, when they came on Boxing Day and made it this single greatest point increase in the Dow history after a tweet from President Trump saying that these people who named themselves the plunge protection crew came in. But I think that spooked, and they realized the market's a little bit more fragile than they probably thought.
Two things. Right now, I'm starting to think about the keg, which means it's almost time to get out of here. The other thing, as I was wondering, is I want to show the audience FTM Media. Can you pull it up on your NDI?
NDI!
Because we are also, we do our show Monday to Thursday now on FTMIG, on our Facebook page, and also on YouTube, which on our FTM Media channel. And Brandon's going to show you what that channel looks like.
If the NDI works, yes, I can.
There it is.
Right there. We're doing some stuff here, folks. We got some videos here. We're going little Tim and Sid / PTI style and going.
It's got a different feel, yeah. It's definitely more of a
going
podcast,
into different things.
Video cast feel. But we go live every day at 6 p.m. Monday
Yeah.
to Thursday. No Fridays. We take Fridays off.
Yep.
And it's post-market, so we do have the advantage of seeing all the drama unfold, and then we can talk about it. We're bringing Johnny Mack, who everybody knows. Johnny Mack's our TA / really knowledgeable investor. We have good conversations with him. Chris Arthur, you'll see him on there all the time, I'm sure, as that relationship builds, hopefully, and lots of other people. So we'll be on there live tonight at 6 p.m.
Yep.
You can also catch us in our chat rooms. Brandon, how do you get into our chat rooms? Where all the other investors are. There's 700 people now.
Yeah, you go.
That's a lot of capital, man.
FTMIG.com, subscribe, and we'll send you a link for free to get in there.
So I'm going to go get some deep fried cauliflower. It's
so
just like my favorite.
It's so good. But first, this guy says, okay, for fuck's sake, I've had enough. where is Karl from? Because you didn't answer. You didn't answer. Where are you from?
Well, where am I from?
But fuck nowhere. Oh,
Come
my
on,
mom
man.
would be so pissed right now.
I'm from Toronto. I was born in Toronto, but I grew up in Scarborough.
No, where do you live now?
Oh, I live in Bowmanville.
That's what I said!
No, dude, there's a difference
I got
between.
it right!
There's a difference between when someone says, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
I'm Canadian, right? So if you're not from Canada, you run into a lot of
Well,
people
so
like,
tell
"Yeah,
them
I'm German. I'm this. I'm that." Dude, I was born in Toronto,
Yeah.
and I was raised and grew up in Scarborough, and I currently reside in Bowmanville, Ontario, which
That's
is.
what I said!
No, I'm not from Bowmanville. There's a big difference. If I was from Bowmanville, I probably wouldn't be on.
Where did you come from today?
Dude, do
So
you
you
not
came
understand? Do you not understand the difference from where you're from? Has a big
And I
part
said
of who
I
you
was
are,
from
man.
Sauga. I'm
No,
from
man.
Mississauga. And you said, no, but I was
Dude,
born there
where you're
at
from,
Credit Valley Hospital.
Where you're from has
and
a
then
big
raised
part.
there for
Why do you
10
think you're
years.
getting a backwards hat and a sweater?
Yeah.
If I was from Burlington, do you think I'd be on here with that?
Dude, but I'm not from Burlington. I spent
Exactly.
2 years there.
So
I was
think-
born and raised in Sauga. I used to wear my pants down to my knees with the
Where are you
1XL,
from?
2XL,
Where are
triple
you
XL
from?
shirts.
Where are you from?
Sauga.
Right. Where do you live?
Toronto.
Thank you. Show's done.
Where did I come from? Toronto.
But you're not from Toronto.
Bowmanville.
But you're not from Toronto.
All right, folks, on that note and on that banter, we're with the keg. The
Later.
education's done. I hope you enjoyed. Chris,
Later.
thank you very much. Stephen, thank you very much. Carl, thank you very much. Connor, Donald, you can't see them, but I can hear them all the time. Thank you very much as well. Stay tuned. We will see you later tonight at 6 p.m. on our network as well. And 1 p.m. we'll see you back here in these seats. And soon to come is James and Ed. Take care.